We acknowledge that together we reside, learn, and create on the land of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Mississauga, Wendake, Neonwencio, and Neutral people.
We seek re-Indigenization. We stand with the Indigenous community and welcome Indigenous voices on this platform. We are grateful to be working and learning on and about this land, and we honor these communities as the traditional stewards of these lands.
Hi, my name's Simi. My pronouns are they, them.
And hey, my name's Cass, and my pronouns are she, her.
And we are
The Dreaming Divas. Plus Penny.
we are a podcast inspired by the Screaming Divas.
And our goal is to create a similar platform, but from the perspective of young singers.
And today we had on the incredible Nicole Katerberg, who is a brilliant soprano that I got to work with on a production of Sor Angelica. And I just graduated from a school where she is currently studying. And yeah, check it out. Ding!
Appreciative. Of course, whenever you get together with like family gatherings, there's endless jokes about the arts and like what are they even doing and like do you even go to class, like that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but you're like it's actually really hard, thank you very much. Like sure, you have 3-hour labs, but have you ever been to like a 5-hour rehearsal? I don't think so.
And be in that.
Hello, Nicole. Nicole, this is Cass. Cass, this is Nicole. I think you've met once virtually.
We've met.
Yes, we have.
Yes, I've seen her a couple times in person, and pretty sure,
Yeah.
I just did the thing. And we were going to room together. I think this was like at the beginning of COVID. I feel like that was a billion years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and then our program was canceled.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, sad.
How fun. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks. I'm like a little nervous. I'm like, huh.
Oh, don't be nervous. We're just chatting, and then it happens to be recording. And we happen to have a plan. We have an agenda.
And sometimes we talk too much anyways, so it's okay.
So why don't we start off with you kind of giving us a little bit about who you are? So you're a soprano.
Yes.
And talk about how you got there and what you are up to now.
Okay. I feel like this is a lot about me. I'm like, huh.
Yeah, that's actually why we had you on.
Yeah. My name is Nicole Katerberg. I am a soprano. Undetermined if we're lyric coloratura, we're still figuring stuff out, so don't ask. And I am currently at Western. I just finished my first year of my MUs with Bethany Horst, who's fabulous. And how I got here, well, ever since I was little, I loved music, but I never really considered it to be a career path, mostly because I guess I didn't really have people who were in the industry kind of to look up to or kind of to like follow. So I just did music as a hobby for a long time. My first ever solo was a kid's version of Handel's Messiah. And I sang the Russet and Suddenly There Was with the Angels. I was in grade 1. I wish I had a video of it because I think it'd be funny.
Yeah, if you find it, we'll put it up right now.
Yeah. In grade 9, I was too nervous to sign up for the voice course. So I took band instead and played the tuba.
The tuba.
Yep.
A little bit bigger. That's a little bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, but I remember dragging all my friends who like music is not really their jam, but like we all grew up singing together. So I was like, hey, we're all gonna join choir because I need friends. So I like kind of strong-armed them into choir, which is great. Yeah, I went to university. I went to Redeemer University College, as it was called when I was there. Um, and I double majored in music and French and minored in theater, with the end goal of probably becoming a teacher, like a French immersion teacher, because that's where you can get the money and like an actual job with benefits and stuff like that. But I originally started out um, without theater. I had a music major, French minor, and then I upped my French to a major so I could go to France in one of my semesters. Just for that, no other reason. I just wanted to go to France. um, and then, yeah, in my second year, I was living with a bunch of theater people. And I always loved theater, but I was way too self-conscious to actually like audition and like go for it kind of deal. And like in high school, my high school only did a musical like every 2 or 3 years. And like in grade 9, like no way was I gonna audition for a musical. Not happening. So I never really got into like I did hair and makeup when I was in high school, but I never really got into theater until like my third year of university, and then I pounded out a minor, mostly in like stage management stuff. So that was a lot of fun. I was also Trix the Aviatrix in the Drowsy Chaperone.
Hey.
Yeah, that was my grand debut to the stage. Yeah, and then I took a year off in between my undergrad and my grad and starting this past year. I worked at McDonald's, the morning shift, so 5 to 1. I died.
Sounds so fun.
Oh my word. You learn a lot about yourself, that's for sure, in the world you live in.
Wow.
Yeah, and then through my old voice teacher, she had been taking lessons with Beth, so she recommended Beth's name because when I finished with the lady I was taking lessons with before I went to my undergrad, we were kind of at the same level. So yeah, she put Beth's name forward, and I remember visiting some of my friends. They're like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm working at McDonald's, and I don't know." So I remember us all sitting down and being like, "Okay, we're gonna take this hour." I don't know if you guys do this, but with friends, you just like sit down and like get all your life list done, you know? Yeah.
Yep.
So I sent emails to Beth, and then I took piano lessons again just to kind of up my proficiency over that year. Yeah. And then Beth was like, "Yeah, I actually have like one spot left. Like, does this time work?" And I was like, "Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great." And then I remember leaving that first lesson and I was like, "Oh my word, like I do really love this." And like, because I was playing with the idea of doing a master's, but I wasn't totally sure if that was for me or if like I had this skill set because I had been looking at like um applications and stuff, and they're all like, "You need a B Muse, otherwise like don't even bother," or whatever. And I'm like, "I only have a BA, like I don't really know anything, like I feel so underqualified." But Beth was like, "No, like I think you should go for it." So then I just remember leaving and being like, maybe this is something I can do, like maybe I should give it a go and like try seriously, like take this music thing and this voice thing seriously. So yeah, so then I auditioned for stuff and I joined the Da Capo choir in Kitchener to keep myself busy. They're fabulous. They like opened my mind to new choir because I was in choir all throughout Redeemer, and they have a fabulous choir. Like it's pretty great. I love choir so much. But yeah, so yeah, then I auditioned for places and decided that Western was going to be a good fit, and decided to keep studying with Beth because she's like that for me. She's like that cool aunt who like can help you in like, because I know some teachers like they have a more of a hands-off approach when it comes to like your personal life and like getting you like you need to find your own opportunities, but Beth is very much like, here are so many things, please consider them. And I think I needed that because I'm not super familiar with the music world, especially then, like now more, but just having someone who's like really pushing, because I feel like I need a push every now and again, and like providing, be like, oh, here is this link, you should check everything out and see if you can apply or if you have time to work this stuff out. So yeah.
That's really good at also career coaching
Yeah.
as voice lessons. Like I'm sure all of us can agree that we've all had a lesson or two or 5 or 10 where the first half of the lesson is you saying, okay, I'm freaking out, I don't know what my life is going to be, please help me. And then she's like, okay,
Take a breath.
you're fine in this moment right now, you cannot change anything, so let's bring it back. And I think that's a really nice thing to have at this point in our lives, because we don't have managers right now, which why would we need any? So I think it's a good way of kind of easing us into, okay, this is how this field kind of works, here's a little introduction. So
Mm-hmm. And the honesty about like what life is like in the industry, I think I really needed that, because like what we're choosing to do is not your average career path, you know, like it'll be tricky, and with like different values pulling at your life and like different things you want, and sometimes it seems very incompatible, which is very scary. And like I like I like education where you're like, okay, now I will get my undergrad and I need to do this, 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 and this, and then I will succeed. Check. But like that, that's not really like, that's not where we're going with this. So it's kind of terrifying. But having all the information beforehand with like the struggles and everything, I think has been really helpful. And because it would suck to graduate and all of a sudden be like, what do you, what? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, that is so cool to see that you took a different journey. I did not know you didn't have an undergrad in BMUs.
no. Yeah.
I did not know that. So that's really awesome. And you decided to add a minor in your third year?
Yeah. Like, at the end of my second year, I went to Linda, my registrar lady, who's awesome. And I was like, hey, so like, is this possible? And then the beginning of my third year, I was in France for a semester, so I couldn't take any theater whatsoever. So then at the end, last, so I did a minor in a year and a half, which was, it was a lot of fun. It was so cool.
I think we should also preface this part with the fact that if you want to make somebody uncomfortable, talk about God. So in that sense, let's talk about God. Um, let's talk about religion and that kind of stuff. So, Nicole, you are a very spiritual person. I know this about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey to where you have arrived now?
Yeah. So I grew up in a very Christian home. I went to Listowel Christian School as my elementary school. Like very generational Christian thing. Like, I also went to a Christian university, if you didn't pick that up from Redeemer University. um, yeah, but yeah, I was raised in a home where faith is very valued and um, very important, and just like a part of my life kind of deal, like a part of growing up. And like definitely growing up, like you get taught all the Bible stories and everything, but there comes like a point in your life where you just kind of have to decide if that's for you or not, you know, like because you have like your parents' faith or whatever. And that's, in my mind, that's kind of what you ride as you grow up, and they give you all the tools for everything, at least in my case. And then at some point you need to decide whether or not you're going to believe the same thing. Like your faith becomes your own in a way. And for me, I guess that happened in high school. Like we had a really great youth program at the church I went to, and there's definitely an emphasis on like making your faith your own. Like, why do you believe what you believe? And that kind of stuck with me. Also going to a Christian university, like studying Redeemer's liberal arts. So I had to take like psychology courses and environmental science and like philosophy and like all those different things, but studying all those subjects from a Christian worldview, kind of like, but what does that mean for us in our world today? Like, how can we impact this area? Like, what does it mean to be Christian? And like, how does that impact what we're going to be doing? Like, what does that mean for your life kind of deal? Yeah. So throughout that, I don't know, I feel like with faith, you always question and you always are trying to find like where you fit and like what you believe in this massive religion that's super it's literally everywhere in the world, with like great history, not so awesome history. Like lots of stuff has happened within the Christian church, like within the church itself, but also with the church's relationship with the world and different cultures. Sometimes it was pretty iffy and not the greatest. So yeah, just I think this past year has been a lot about kind of just not justifying, but coming to terms with the role of the church versus like the role of my personal faith, because sometimes like the church you're a part of like is not lining up with what you believe as a person and like what you believe God says in the Bible, and kind of like trying to figure out like where you lie within, like, because you have the Christian church and then you have Catholicism and then you have Protestants and then you have like all the little things down there, and like trying to find a place where you fit in, but then really does it really all matter, all these like tiny little differences between all these denominations, and then like at the basis what does it mean to be a Christian, kind of. So that's what I have been struggling with this past year. But I don't know, just coming back to like the comfort that I find in Christ in this like insane world that we live in, and like feels like everything's going to shit, like coronavirus and like all these protests, and like people just aren't like, they aren't coming together. No one's, it feels like sometimes people aren't communicating with each other, or aren't just, they're just not willing to understand or like see people from different points of views, and like it's just, we live in a hot mess. And like, where do you find your comfort in that? And I find it in God and like my relationship with him, and the fact that like salvation and grace and like, yeah. So
Yeah, I think religion's so interesting because it was created to unify people, but all it has ever done is separate us into smaller and smaller groups. Like you were just saying, within Christianity, it just kind of like a tree, you could say. It just branches off into all these small little things, and then there's conflict between all of the small little things and all of the big things, and it really goes against what the initial purpose of it was. And this goes, I think, throughout all of it. Like we could even talk about as humanity as a whole and all the different religions, the big religions that have created conflict. Like I know I was born Jewish, and like there was a lot of history with that, and then Christianity as well. And like even today, like so many people struggle to understand what the actual concept of Islam is, which is peace. So I think it's so interesting that we go against what the actual purpose of it was. It's kind of ridiculous, kind of silly. Human beings, silly gooses. But yeah, I don't know. And Cass, you're also a very spiritual person.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say I am. I would say I was raised in a Christian household, but I didn't really go to church as a child. We just, it was like Christmas and Easter kind of family. But I kind of came to it myself, like with it, I think in high school, mid high school.
awesome.
And so my path was very different, and it was definitely um, because of my own decision to find peace. And what I think is really important to know, or like for myself, is that it's not something I have to follow or anything. It's to have faith in something greater than myself and to have a relationship with God. Like that is the most important thing for me. And having it rooted in relationship, that means I can make relationships like in my community as well. Um, I think that's just so important for me, but there are a lot of things I don't align with also from certain churches. Like every church, truly every building, like church is different. They have like their own thoughts and ideas, and I've never actually gone to a denominational church. I go to non-denominational church.
Mm-hmm.
So, very, very different from, let's say, I was baptized in Orthodox, so
Okay.
that is very
Yeah.
Eastern European. My mom's Romanian, so we like when I went to church as a child, it was in an Orthodox church, and I had no idea what was going on most of the time. I was just looking at the paintings on the church. Basically, that's what I would do.
That was the realization that I came across this past year, being like, okay, but really it's about my relation, like my personal relationship with God. Like, because I feel like I found a lot of my identity within the church just because it had been a part of my life for so long. And like I went to, because I grew up in the Christian Reformed Church. It's like super Dutch, like part of my culture, like part of who I am, part of my faith. But then like coronavirus, you can't really go to church, so you're not really surrounded by that. And then moving to a new city, like how the heck you gonna find a new church when you can't go to church, like. And I had been struggling a few years just with being like, but like, I don't agree with how they do this, I don't agree with how they do that. And then part of you is like, do I agree with anything, like what the heck? But then coming to the exact same thing where you're just like, but no, it's my personal relationship with God. That's what matters. Like the church is gonna do the church, like original sin is a thing, like stuff's gonna happen, but in the end it's my personal relationship with God and what I believe he has called me to do on this moment in time.
And so I'm a lover of God. I'm not a follower of Jesus. I'm not a follower of any religion. But for me, God is important. And I also want to acknowledge that it's okay if you don't believe in God too. And that's real for you. Like that's also how I see it. Like God is real for me, but God isn't real for everybody. And that's, I think, how we should see it as a society as well. That even if we believe in God, we don't need to put it on other people to say, oh, God will forgive you. God doesn't exist for them, so there's nothing to forgive. You know what I mean? So, with your spiritual journey and your believing in God and being Christian, have you had any conflict with your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs within opera? Have you had to give anything up for it? And that could be like beliefs, traditions. I know the opera world is pretty strict about you're probably not going to get a lot of time to spend holidays with family.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like so far in respect to like having to give stuff up. I don't know if I would give stuff up. Not the stuff that like super mattered and like for me. Cause like, I don't know, like my parents grew up in the generation where like you must go to church twice a day, like morning service, afternoon, like everything. But I feel like our generation is more like go to church like if you can, but like sometimes you have to work, like sometimes there's no way around that stuff and it really sucks. But like making sure on a different day you carve out that time for God to like recenter, refocus, like you have Sabbath rest, right? Like that's the important bit of it. It's like taking the truths of like these traditions that may have been a little, I don't know, they get taken out of context sometimes and like things get a little like, but then like going down to like the truth of it, like why was this a thing in the first place, and then taking that along. So I don't think I've given anything up in that respect when it comes to opera. I know like in respect to like theater and stuff, a lot of topics are like presented and discussed and like and sometimes that's really tricky, especially when you're like, I don't know, like this doesn't super align with what I believe. But in my undergrad, one of the theater profs at Redeemer, who was fabulous, Raymond Lauder, he's a great guy. In one of our courses, that subject kind of came up, like, what if something you have to do on stage like doesn't really align with your personal beliefs or like what you think is okay and all this stuff. And then what he said was, does this story need to be told? And are you the person in the best situation to tell this story? Because then it's kind of your duty as an artist to present this story in the best way you can because it needs to be told, And I think that really changed my mindset on things because we talked a lot about like sexuality on stage and like stuff like that. And he's like, well, like if it is necessary for the story to be told and it will make an impact, and that's not just like the shock factor and things like that, but like it's necessary, then as an artist, you should be able to like make sense of that, you know, like just doing it for shits and gigs, like I have a problem with that, but like when it's necessary to the story and necessary to the character and necessary for people to understand the subject, then I think that's, yeah, then you have to do it justice, you know.
So, have you been able to bring anything from your spirituality or your relationship with Christ into your musical experience or how you perform?
100%, I think. Because like the reason why I decided to pursue music is because God gave me a gift, and that is my voice. And as much as performing scares the living daylights out of me, and I would rather not, um, I feel like it's a disservice to just say no to having something that not like what we have is special. And I know it doesn't feel like that all the time, but like sometimes I have to remind myself that like not everyone can sing.
Wow.
And I feel like, yeah, if God didn't want me to do this, he would have given me a shit voice, you know, like so that it's like it's a deep motivation for why I do what I do, and also how I do what I do, and like keeping God at the center of that, because I know all of us can get caught up with like, heck yeah, I freaking crushed that, and like it can cut like ego always slips in, come on, like
Yeah.
all of us are a little bit competitive, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this, like come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, taking that time to remember like not about me, not about me at all, like
Yeah.
that, I don't know, it always is, it's super humbling and always like takes back a step, but also dealing with like the content of a lot of like operas and like oratorio stuff, like it's just like praise and worship music but like a little while ago, you know, like it's so, and that like it didn't, I think that when I finally realized that, I was like, oh, like Handel's Messiah was just like Bethel music but like a little while ago, you know, like and like for
So
me, yeah, for me that like it really changed my perspective on like Bach and like all this like oratorio stuff, where it's like literally, why am I singing this? Personally, for me, it's to praise Jesus and like
yeah.
praise God and like to bring glory to him. And it's obviously easier with that 'cause it's literally the words than it is with like some opera stuff or like some art song. It's a little trickier to like connect all the dots and stuff. But I don't know,
Yeah.
when I finally realized like, yeah, it's about technique and stuff, but in the end, like all you're doing is praising God. Like it lifted a huge burden off my shoulders, because a lot of these oratorio like sacred music have a lot of history of like performance, and like they're done a lot, like Handel's Messiah, like come on, like twice a year if not more, you know,
Easiest job you can get as a classical singer.
right? And then to make sure you're doing it justice, for me is like deeply rooted in my faith, like bringing like rejoice greatly, like bringing that to life, or like I know my redeemer liveth. Like for me, like the truth is right in those words, and just singing that from a place of like, this is my faith, this is what I actually believe. Like I feel bad for people who aren't don't believe this and still have to sing it with as much conviction. Like that's got to be so hard, you know,
Yeah.
like I don't know how they do it. I'm impressed, but I'm like, yeah. Like yeah,
Well, I
so
thank you.
Yeah. Simi. Oh my gosh. I was gonna say, yeah, it's so cool, even in art song. For me personally, I mean, art song was, I think, helped me grow so much as a singer, and I absolutely love art song. And working through my grad recital, and every art song has a different theme, a different message, a lot about unrequited love, let's be real. Our nature, right? That's most of it. But it's so cool to connect it personally to my own spirituality and my my goal always as a musician, singer, performer is to be a vessel for this music. And
Exactly.
personally, for me, that music comes from God, or like that. There's a purpose for this music, and just being a vessel for it um, has such a deep and like a deep energy to it when I'm on stage. I also personally I believe a lot in the energies that surround us, and I believe that God created those energies for us to use and be aware of and sense. Like there are so many things that we can understand just by being still and feeling those around us. So on stage, that energetic kind of cycle between what I'm trying to serve and like present to the audience and then receiving that back
Mhm.
from them is so, there's like no feeling like it.
But I wanted to ask Nicole, actually, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, bringing the belief system into the work, because I had the great honor of being in Swore Angelica with you, who was Swore Angelica. And I was wondering if you had any specific things related to that opera that you brought in.
Yeah, because like that whole thing, like obviously she's praying to Mary, and I'm not Catholic, so I don't really pray to Mary. I just pray straight to Jesus. Praise God. But yeah, like nuns have always fascinated me. Like to give up, like that is next level. Like like so much respect and awe for people who choose that life, because or for people who like recognize that as God's calling in their life, like it
Yeah.
blows my mind. So like trying to like have that mindset. Obviously Angelica did not choose that exactly, like she was kind of forced, but I think she found a lot of comfort from not organized religion, but like the idea of someone greater, right? So then in like interpreting that in like your own body and your own belief system, I think it really helped to already have a basis in believing that like there is a greater power out there. And literally at the end when she's like praying like save me, like definitely listening back to that, I was like, geez, what possessed me to sound like that? Like but then like recognizing that it wasn't it wasn't from a made up place, but it was more from like a full on like God save me, like I've messed up. And like I know I felt like that in my life before. And then like not in the moment knowing that, but like being able to fall back on that kind of unconsciously and then watching it back again, being like, oh yeah, like I definitely was accessing feelings that I've had before at this kind of level, which was so cool and kind of like a little breakthrough moment for me. It didn't make much sense for a lot of time, but it was cool because I was struggling a lot to like kind of identify with Angelica, because I was like, I don't really get you, lady. Like, I don't quite understand where
Mm-hmm.
that, but I think the thing we had in common was like that belief in a greater person, a greater thing, a greater being. And that's where she found her comfort. And I think that's really cool that we had that in common, that I could kind of rely on that.
And I think this is super cool for even people who don't have a faith, but being able to pull something like an experience, something that was like a large part of your life or that you see as something large in your life, and pulling from that and using it in your musical experience. Like that's a good reflection too for people who, don't have faith. What was something like, let's look at the last musical experience you had, and that moment where you're like, how did that even happen? Like I think we've all had that. It was like, oh, that just happened. But like, where did that come from? Where did you pull that from? Was that a feeling like that you had that you tried to like portray again? Or yeah, I always love going back and analyzing how that happened or where did I pull from. And I know for Nicole and I, that's something we have faith in something. So, you know, that's where I pull a lot of my
Yeah. But
yeah.
since you mentioned like having a family and stuff like that, like I know you and I have touched on this before, but there's a lot of conflicting ideas of how that would work in the future.
Yes.
Yes. And we know it's possible. Like there, you know, Deanna Demerau, Isabel Leonard's a single mom, et cetera, et cetera. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are terrified right now. Um, but also like no need to be in the end, because like it's gonna be what it's gonna be, right? Like I can worry as much as I want right now, but if that's not for me, it's not for me, even though I really want it to be. I would love to have like 5 kids and like make them travel the world with me. But then also taking into account that they need a like stable childhood and they need to go to school and like not wrecking the future generation
Yeah.
and not having your kids resent you, you know, like that's a thing. um
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, lots. I'm scared because like that's a huge dream for me, like a huge want is to have a family, like have a husband, have some kids, but also really do this music thing like full on. um and like during this opera nova thing we had artists living with Rebecca Haas, and she posed a lot of questions for us. Yeah, so she made us like break down like what are our values, like what do we value most, and kind of like what is going to make us happy, like what is your own definition of success kind of deal, and like what does that look like for you in like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years kind of deal. And like having to like do that was like a little painful because I realized I wanted everything, and like trying to figure out what my top 3 values were. I was like, but I want everything. Like I don't want to have to compromise on something just because everything. But she raised a good point that everything is fluid. Like your values are going to change throughout your life. And like what you value now might not be what you value in 20 years, but just having to acknowledge that. And like whenever you have to make a decision, when you have to give something else up, just like really thinking it through and being conscious of why I'm making that decision and acknowledging what I'm giving up at this time. And then maybe you can trade off later in the future. Like it's always going to be a give and take. And she also raised a good point that like no one's going to do it the same way, which kind of frustrates me a little because you want to, I don't know, you always want to have like, oh, well, this person did it like this, so I can just follow exactly like what they're doing and like it'll work perfectly, you know? But like there's no guarantees, obviously.
Yeah.
So like knowing that it's just, if I want it, I will go after it, obviously. And then if it's going to happen, it's going to happen and we'll make it work when it is there. And, and also like just trusting that that's going to be a thing. And I really pray it is going to be a thing. But yeah, so
Yeah.
it's terrifying and awful. And obviously the arts are like, if I wanted to do it the easy way, I wouldn't have chosen this, but I think this is what I should be doing. So yeah.
Kind of going back to the fact that we're all so young, one thing that I know we all have in common is a bit of imposter syndrome because we all kind of arrived late to the decision of classical music. And I think that also connects to the fear of putting ourselves out there in the world for people to hear at the point in which we are now, which is still quite young. We still have a lot of education to go through, a lot of experience to go through, and a lot of vocal development to go through. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you and I have Nicole touched on this before.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, when you have to upload all those videos for all these competitions and stuff, you know they're unlisted. Like
Actually, I have to say, before we posted our first episode of this, I went on my personal YouTube channel and made everything that was public unlisted because I was like, no, we're not doing that today.
No. Yeah. And like it's not because I'm ashamed of what I sound like now. It's just like I don't I don't want people to like 2 years from now be like, oh yeah, and this is Nicole, or like I think also because we're learning so much at such a fast rate And like our voices are still changing at such a fast rate that like next month I might not sound like what I do this month. And like this thought, like the way I sing this piece is going to change. And I just don't want to have like a stuck, like documented something stuck in the ether that people are going to go back to and be like, oh, well, she sounds like this. And you're like, no, like I've actually changed a lot since then. So, but then it's just like constantly updating and everything. And it just gets a lot. So then I'd rather just like stay anonymous, which is stupid. But, you know, like it's just that fear of being like, well, that like it wasn't my best, or like just not being at the top, or like a little bit of perfectionism like comes in and you're like, but like I could be better than this like next week, you know, like it's just
It's so frustrating. And I know, Cass, you struggle with this as well. The imposter.
I was it's definitely, I feel like I've always had a little bit. Going into my master's, I am really needing to work on this. I am realizing it. I'm seeing it. I don't feel like I deserve to be at U of T. I found out it happened and I was like, this is a mistake. Like they sent me the wrong thing. Like okay, I'm going to be in the Masters of Voice, not opera, right? Like this is not like I truly had these thoughts. And I was like, no, that needs to stop. You got in for a reason. You're going to go do the thing now. So it's a matter of having to realize it's there, but not letting it control my actions and my thoughts, because I know what my thoughts are going to become my reality. So if I'm going to let these thoughts that are in my head get in the way of doing the thing, like it's taking over, this imposter syndrome. So like I know it's there and it's okay and I'm going to work through it slowly, but I have to keep it small. Like it's just going to be there. It's not going to be all in my reality. It's going to be there until I can, you know, prove to myself. I don't really have to prove to myself, but you know, like I can be like, okay, you can go now, but it's still there.
And it's also it's so internal to make that decision, because like I know you, I've heard you sing, and I know you deserve to be in the program that you're going to, but me just telling you that isn't going to make you realize, oh yeah, you're right, I'm good enough, right? It's such an internal thing. Like um and we're going to be told so much garbage about ourselves, unwanting it. We won't want it, and they'll just volunteer the garbage about ourselves, like as if we don't already know, right? And for some reason, that stuff goes right through the filter. But all of the compliments, all that stuff, it just doesn't go up here. So it's so frustrating for us to be able to realize, oh, yeah, no, I am good enough to be here.
There's something called the reticular activating system in our brains, the RAS system. And basically, what it is it filters our thoughts, because our eyes and things, we can only take in so much per second, right? So let's do a little exercise. This has nothing to do with like music, but here we are.
This is fun.
So why don't I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to look around the room and remember and find everything that's blue. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close your eyes. How many things in the room were brown? Do you know?
Absolutely not.
No, because you programmed your mind to only be aware of things that were blue. So if you can go into something, or so now let's relate it back to what your filter. If you're programming your mind to only be aware of things that are negative, those are the only things your brain is going to process in your conscious mind. Our subconscious mind picks up billions of bits of data that's in front of us. But consciously, you can only take in so much in a second. So if you are working on yourself every morning, or you prepare yourself in the morning, and for me, a practice of prayer and gratitude is very important to me. Like writing out every single morning what I'm grateful for today. I'm programming my mind to be aware of everything I'm grateful for. I'm not programming my mind to find things that are negative. right? And that was a huge game changer in my life to actually achieve things and get things done. Because I know when I set my mind to something, I'm going to get it because I know how to program my own mind. And that's my responsibility to do that and learn from that.
I actually want to continue on with that topic because I think there's a really big aspect of the rep we're singing. Like, are we singing the right rep for our voice? Are we singing the right rep for our voice now as opposed to when it will be better in 5 to 10 years? Is a big part of it.
Oh, yeah. That's so true. I
Going
didn't
to
even think about
auditions. Yeah. And like auditions, like look at the COC, right? If you audition, you cannot audition again for several years because they will just, and I get they want you to develop enough, but at the same time, a lot happens in 2 years, 1 year, even for some people.
that.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
That's crazy. I get terrified when I think about like rep choices and things like that. I'm like, somebody just tell me. Just tell me. Like I have dream rep and things like that, and I never, it's kind of just like I don't consciously think about what I can sing. To be honest, it's so stressful for me, so I'm just like I detach it. I'm just like, you tell me when, I'll sing it then. I'll learn this now. Just don't give me something that's wonky and like crazy. But like Ned Rorem, that stuff. Okay, great composer, but like I can't sing it. I suck.
I literally did Ed Roram on my recital this year.
Yeah.
You're the one that's like the dance.
Yeah,
The
that one.
you sang it. You know what? You deserve all the claps for that. That is a
Beast.
It's next level shit right there.
yeah. I
I
can't.
felt ridiculous.
Wow. Yeah. There's not that many things that I'm like no.
That was one.
See, I always had Beth tell me to sing things until recently when I started doing my own exploration. And now I text Beth, okay, how long until I'm able to sing this? Like, and then I put it in my calendar for years ahead. Like, but I did this for you because I really want you to one day sing Mama Morta, right? And so I texted Beth, how long until Cass can sing this aria? And she said, ooh, like 6 years minimum. And so then I went into my calendar and Cass can sing. Like on that date at that time, I said Cass might be able to sing this aria now. Yeah, it's
Oh my
funny.
God. Yeah.
Nicole, do you have those kind of pieces?
Yes, in a way. Okay, this whole like Fach thing for me is a bunch of bullshit, but like I get it. I understand the use. Yes, it exists, blah blah blah. But as soon as you limit yourself to one little sliver of like the repertoire, I think that's so dumb. And like, yes, obviously you won't be hired for things just because of how you sound, and that's not the sound that they want, or not the sound that will carry the best, or like not the sound that's useful for them. But like you can still learn it safely in your own voice type and learn stuff about your own musicality and your own way of learning things and different styles. And I think there's definitely importance and use in that. So I think just like writing off a bunch of arias and songs and art songs just because they're not in your Fach is like, why don't do it to yourself? Like you can learn so much from other things and other people. So like give it a go. And if you absolutely hate it, then like reconfirmation that it's not your thing. But like at least give it a go. And like I understand people will sing stuff and like get labeled for stuff that's not their thing. And that is dangerous to be singing outside of what your capabilities are. But like I still think you need to know your voice enough to know your limits, obviously. But I think you should be able to learn and grow in things that aren't necessarily what will get you hired, kind of deal.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I so agree with that. Simi, you go ahead.
Well, no, I also agree. And I was watching a Marie Callas interview, and she was like, totally agreed. Like, this whole Fox shit is BS. No, because she said if you were a mezzo, like, you know, I think it started to change in her time. When if you were a mezzo, you sang mezzo things. If you were a soprano, you sang soprano things. There wasn't much of a difference between lyric and soubrette and dramatic. Like, we've put these labels on a color in our voice, but it doesn't necessarily meet up with our capabilities. Sometimes it does, and not always, though. So I think it's really interesting. But
True.
yeah,
Yeah. For me personally, you know, I think everyone now by knows by now that I love singing low, but I'm technically a soprano. But like in university, I sang a few art songs that were mezzo, range, mezzo, and I got to learn from that. I got to learn about different parts of my voice that, you know, or the part of my range that, okay, that needs a little help. We need to work on that a little bit more.
Definitely talking to other people, there's like this thing where like classical singers can't sing musical theater, like you're gonna wreck your voice, blah blah blah. But I think it's so useful to know how your voice functions in different genres, and like how you can manipulate the technique, you know, to like change how you sound or like how you present a song, because like that's so useful in like in your rap that you're learning as well. Like I'm learning a more like contemporary English aria at like Bolcom, and then this one lady was like, you need to put more like, I forget what she said right away, but then I was like, oh, but in my voice, like I know what you mean. Because I think she said like put more chest voice, but I was like, that's not a range where I feel my chest voice, but like knowing how your voice works in that moment and like in that area of your voice, I think really helps. So just like knowing your voice inside and out, like you need to do that. And the only way to do that is explore different genres, different Fachs, different like ways of singing. Yeah. It's just, so yeah, don't get stuck in a Fach. It's done. Yeah.
Yes, that's like music to my ears. When you said you don't know what it is, but you feel it in different spots, and that's exactly it. All it is a different resonance space in your voice because you can sing the same note in head voice and chest voice, but it's just head resonance versus chest resonance. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
voice. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that by using chest voice and head voice, it can actually do damage to the way you think about your voice and understanding like the functionality of the actual chords. Like it can create a disconnect if you think about it like that. Because for so long I was like, I don't sing in chest voice. I don't have chest voice. That's not available to me. But once I realized, okay, it's a different resonance space, and okay, this part of my range of really struggled to access that resonance space. And then I started working on it and it could change. And I was like, wow, I can actually do this.
Making an ugly sound.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I've been hearing more of lately. Mostly because like when you sing, you're like, especially growing up, you like want to sound pretty, like you want to be like the angels. Like I always got that comment, like, oh, you sound like an angel, blah blah blah. But then I remember in my undergrad, my teacher was like, "Okay, like you sound good, but like
we're
you know,
yeah.
like you need to mean what you say, and then sometimes to get that across, you need to sound ugly." Like
Yeah.
and like I'm still working on it, obviously, but like yeah, letting yourself and knowing your voice well enough and trusting your voice well enough to like get all the different colors you need for the different emotions that these characters are going through, and like even art song and stuff, like there's a lot going on in those things, and like to be able to fully communicate that with your voice, you need to know your voice inside and out and its capabilities and how to do that safely within your own voice. So
Important part, and I think it allows us to access the character more so, even if we don't put
mm,
it in the final performance, um, even when we're speaking the text, if that's part of, you know, your process, it's part of mine,
mm,
to speak it in a way that it would actually be said. Like, I'm not on stage giving a Shakespeare monologue. I'm talking to somebody, and let's say I'm mad, I'm probably yelling, and there's like ugly sounds, probably not so great for the voice coming out because
mm,
I'm angry. And
Right.
then I put that thought process into the music without, you know, causing any damage and being really safe with the instrument, but at the same time giving that character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was working on pianjero with
So good.
like in a lesson um as part of opera nuova, and this guy was like, no, like I don't believe you, like I need to like you. And we were doing the B section, and I had always thought of Cleopatra as like, freaking fight me in the B section, like I'm gonna haunt you for day and night. So like my cadenza was like very vicious, not vicious, but like very pointed. And he's like, I don't really like you anymore, like, but like as an audience we need to like you. And I was like, valid, like completely different thing. So like just changing your mindset in that moment just like changes how you view your character. And because she's like, do you think she's vicious? And I'm like, or vengeful? And I'm like, well, like she loves somebody, so therefore she like there's human to her. So like it's not like you're queen of the night popping off, like, you know, but like, you know, so it was just so fascinating to like start to tie in character and like see how the music indicates character, because I've never really thought of it that way. It was definitely a breakthrough moment where I was like, I get you.
That's such an interesting way of putting it. This is my favorite question. And we have talked about this, but now you're going to talk about it again. What is your why?
My why? Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Every time someone asks me, I'm like, that's a great question. No, but I think currently it is because I think it's what God has called me to do. Like he's given me the tools, so it's now my responsibility to develop them. And also, I think the arts is such a powerful way to help people understand other people and like see stories from different perspectives and make you think about life and how people think differently than you, and like to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And like I think that is so necessary, especially now in our culture where divisions are becoming more and more obvious in cultures and societies we thought were, I don't want to use the word civilized, but like thought they had their like stuff together. So I think the arts are so needed, and if I can be a part of that, if I can help tell those stories and help unite countries and like people and cultures, I think that would be a job well done. And just to like move people, like make people feel in this world where like everything is so like, especially now, it's so 2D and like a little separated from like reality in a way. Like this is happening right now and I understand that it's real, but as soon as I shut my computer, like part of me is like, did that just happen? Like, was I actually talking to people or was I just watching something? You know, things like that. And like I think live arts is so important to like keep people honest with themselves and honest with culture. And I really want to be a part of that. And I just love it so much. And it makes me so happy.
That's a great why.
That's a great why.
That is a great why. I love it. Frankie's here.
Rapid fire. I don't have a mug today. I have a little baggie.
Well, you didn't have a mug last time either, but that's okay. I feel like I should find another Frankie and send it to you. I mean, I got this at the thrift store. I don't know where to find another one, but I feel like you need.
I need one.
Maybe we'll name yours Freddie. It'll be Freddie and Frankie. I don't know.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the first one.
Go.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're gonna try.
Nicole, do you know what this is?
Oh, yeah.
Rapid fire, hit me.
Oh, great.
Okay, and yeah, you can talk. Our rapid fire was like
Not very rapid.
opposite of rapid fire, like extra long. Take your dang time. Okay.
We had like 7 backstories for each one.
Okay. First one. Oh, if you weren't a singer, what would you be?
Paramedic.
Oh. Okay. Good one. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Just do it.
Wow, she's way better at this than we were.
What is something that made you happy today?
My roommates.
Tell them I say hi. Favorite board game?
That one's tricky. I do prefer card games over board games because in my mind, board games take too much time. So I'll go card game. I don't know if you know Dutch Blitz is an all-time favorite. So, but board game, I do love Monopoly.
That takes like 1,000 years. I get it.
But it's so satisfactory when like your siblings are going around the thing and you have a hotel on Boardwalk and you just like slaughter them.
Whoa! I know.
That's when it's you. Or the bean game. The bean game's also really fun, but it's more of a card game as well.
Oh, I've seen. Yes, I've played that. That was fun.
It's a good time.
I need some questions because I'm obsessed. Okay. Okay. What's the most recent thing that you've learned?
Rely on the character and the music. It tells you everything.
Good one. All right, this is our big one. So, if God exists, what do you want God to tell you as you enter the pearly gates, or say to you?
Welcome home, honey.
Oh, honey.
That made me emotional. Okay. Who took you to your first opera?
Myself. No, I went with in my third year of my undergrad, I lived with this amazing group of girls. They are fabulous. And my roommate, she got married. She lives in Toronto now with her husband. So we got like the under 30 tickets to one of the operas. My friend Robin went to an opera in high school and was like, oh yeah, we should go. So we kept saying we should go. So we finally went and we saw Sondra Radvanovsky in her the Rusalka. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's a dream.
Yeah.
I'm pretty mad about that. Not gonna lie.
Amazing.
All right. Favorite book?
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Me too. That's what I was thinking about. Okay. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
So many places. But I think
Top three.
Okay. Greece is still on the list. Germany, I think, and then like Philippines area.
So awesome.
Well, I mean, we're going to Italy together, so sorry. But
like that one's already planned. So
yeah, so that was on like the list to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who do you fan person over?
Like anyone in my life.
Oh, I think we thought like opera singers, but you can say anybody in your life if you want.
Celebrities, yeah. Or actors and actors.
I do love me some Lisette Oropesa. Just because I appreciate her as a human. So therefore I appreciate her as an artist. So
that was mine. Seriously. I'm obsessed with Lisette. Yeah.
She's good. She's great.
I have a signed CD. Lisette's signature on a CD.
The like latest one?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Love Lisette. I hope she remembers me one day when I meet her. She better remember me. No, I'm kidding.
Are you all out or do you have one more?
I'm out.
Okay, me too. This was lovely. Thank you so much for doing this with us. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was so fun.
This was awesome.
I mean, we are so glad that you were our first guest. And as soon as this idea came to me, I was like, oh, we have to speak to Nicole. So thank you so much for joining us on this almost 2-hour endeavor, which will become 1 hour when the editing is over.
Well, good luck.
God bless me. Okay.
Brian. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you both. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy.
Okay, wait, are we ending the okay, how are we ending the recording? Are we ending at the same time? This is what happened last time.
No. So Nicole's gonna go bye-bye and we still need to do our intro.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Have so much fun.
Yes.
See you hopefully in person at some point in the near future.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
would be amazing.
Yeah, they're doing awesome things.
You are too.
Bye.
I was looking up this. I don't know who the quote was, but I've heard this quote many times, and people say you overestimate what you can do in 1 year, but underestimate what can happen in like 5 years. And that's so true. You know, like 5 years, we could actually be doing this, like doing it. We could. It's possible. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do that.
Oh.
I like that way better than an accountant. Okay.